What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So for this horror news update, we have a couple of stories. Primarily today's horror news update is going to be focusing on, as you see from this headline, weapons. Now, we have two different stories, topics to talk about with weapons. So I haven't seen the film, and I think many of you know when it comes to any film, whether it's horror, whether it's whatever. TV shows, doesn't matter. Spoilers are spoilers. Now, I will say, when it comes to like doing trailer reviews, things of that nature, I don't like reading too much, like too big of a synopsis, because I want to at least watch the trailer for what it is, right? But when it comes to movies, I mean, anyone that knows my situation, it's hard for me to go see films. Medical from a medical perspective, it's hard for me to go see films. So in theaters. So I accept the fact that I'm gonna be spoiled with a lot of films, right? As far as when I'm looking at various articles throughout the day, throughout the week, especially with films like Weapons. Once a film is released, I mean, now Weapons has been out for almost 2 weeks now. Odds are people are gonna be talking about it, giving their opinions on it, reviews, spoiler reviews. So I accept that. Either I stay away from it, or I just lean into it, knowing, hey, I'm gonna find out some stuff about it before I even see it. So I do want to preface the fact that there are going to probably be spoilers in this article and the next one when we talk about Weapons. So if you haven't seen Weapons and you want to see Weapons, skip ahead past these topics, and if you want to check out the rest of the topics that we'll cover, because again, I don't want to ruin it for anybody. But I kind of go into this into many of these topics knowing if it's a film I haven't seen, I'm probably going to be spoiled either way. So that's my approach on it. But I just want to give the preface of there will be probably spoilers on this one. So we're going to talk about Weapons. We're going to talk about a quick update on Sweet Revenge. If you didn't know, that's the short film for the new kickoff, so to speak, for the new Jason universe. I have not watched it yet. It's only like 15 minutes long. I'm going to give it a watch later on tonight. Do a quick spoiler review this weekend of it, along with several other films I want to get some reviews out there for. Some that have been out for a while earlier this year that I know many people have already done reviews on, but I'm getting caught up on a lot of movies, a lot of TV series. And then we're going to watch also and do some commentary on a quick clip it from an interview that Danielle Harris did as it relates to Halloween 4 and 5. It's only about 6 minutes long, so I thought it'd be worth checking out. I'm a fan of Danielle Harris. I'm a fan of her work. I'm a huge fan of Halloween. Everyone that knows me knows the Halloween franchise is my favorite franchise, specifically Halloween 1 and 2. And yes, I'm talking about 1978 and 1981. I know a lot of people don't like Halloween 2 from 1981. They absolutely hate it. I absolutely love it. I think it's a great Halloween film, but to each his own. So let's jump into it, because this might be a little bit longer video than normal. Hopefully not too long. So let's just go right into the first topic. Weapons just became the rare original horror movie to hit 100 million in theaters. I don't think that's a surprise. I think we all knew this was going to be a hit. The trailers, I think, did the marketing for this, and the trailers that they had put out, the teasers for like the posters and things like that. I think they marketed this film very well. And I think that's one of the things that was a draw for this film. 'Cause I know some people who aren't horror fans at all, and they were still pumped to go see this film and saw it opening weekend. So I think that says a lot when you can get non-horror fans to go see an original horror film, let alone a horror film. That says quite a bit. So let's jump into this one. It's not very common for a non-franchise horror movie to hit 100 million at the box office, but Zach's Weapons can already boast about hitting that milestone after just 1 week of release. The production budget for Weapons was reported 38 million, and Weapons is already profitable in theaters, with the film scaring up 100 million at the worldwide box office. And this is a recent article, so this was just yesterday. Again, I think this is now the second weekend. I'm going to be interested to see, though, what that drop is going to be. We all know, especially with horror films, the drops are always very significant, and we were tracking that earlier this year and I've talked about this a couple times. It's been a while, but like Wolfman, Companion, Hard Eyes, Presence, a lot of these horror films had some strong first weekends. I think Hard Eyes was the only one that had a decent opening weekend, but their second weekend was even bigger because their second weekend release happened to be Valentine's Day weekend, which it was a Valentine's Day horror film, so we knew that that one was probably going to have a huge uptick, and it did. But that third week, it tanked bad. Wolfman was probably the worst because it had a horrible second week, an abysmal third week, and then it was pulled. And then we got it on digital, I think, by like week 4. So you might have heard that Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema have already been talking to Cregger about a potential Weapons prequel, which we're going to talk about that here in a moment, centered on the Aunt Gladys character. But let's hold that thought for now and focus on the massive achievement that's in front of us this week. Weapons is only the fourth horror movie of the year so far to pass 100 million with only 28 years later. I think we knew that one was going to, just based on the hype. I don't know if it necessarily deserved it. Final Destination Bloodlines. So I haven't seen 28 years later. It's available on digital now. I'm gonna purchase it this weekend and watch it. I did just recently watch Final Destination Bloodlines. I'm gonna try to do reviews now to be between like 8 and 10 minutes to keep them like very, very short, instead of doing a full walkthrough of the film and doing a summary of it. I'm literally just gonna give highlights, what I like, don't like, and a score. I think that's the best way to go about it. Final Destination Bloodlines, again, I think because of the time gap between the 5th film and then this film being the 6th one, so many people were excited to, like 28 years later, we're excited to see the continuation. To me, I thought the story was good in how they were attempting to, in a roundabout way, or I don't want to say under the table way, but without calling it out, kind of trying to link all the films together, like how death has traveled over this, like the decades and centuries or whatever, or more so the decades, really, ever since like that one event happened in the beginning of this film, and how it traveled through history, right? Sinners, I mentioned this on the video, the horror news update yesterday, just a quick blip. I was so excited for Sinners. I was hyped about Sinners. I just couldn't wait. It was a period piece. Everything about the I was so hyped for it. When I saw it, there were some bright spots for me. Overall, I haven't gone back and watched it again. It was a blind buy. I didn't blind buy it. I waited for HBO Max actually, because I was about to buy it, and then I heard it was coming on HBO Max like a week or so later. So I didn't buy it actually. I streamed it, and there were some bright spots for me, but overall I was disappointed. It didn't hit for me like I think it hit for many other people. So while I'm not surprised these are the ones that broke the 100 million, I don't know if especially the first 2 really deserved it, in my opinion. Okay, let's move on. And the class gets even smaller when we're talking about original horror, with Weapons and Sinners falling into that category. All right, anytime an original horror movie hits 100 million theaters, it is, needless to say, a massive win for the genre, and I do appreciate that. And that's one thing I won't take away from the fact that these films had enough backing and support that it is a massive win for the overall genre. It gets eyes on the genre, which I do appreciate. It's just the films just didn't hit for me, and maybe it will take more than one viewing, especially like Sinners. I think maybe Sinners will take another viewing or two for me to be like, oh, okay, because sometimes it does take that for me. I'll watch a film one time, won't really care for it, I'll walk away and come back to it like a month or so later and be like, oh, okay, no, I'm really, wait a minute. And now that I kind of know what to expect, I'm kind of paying attention to other things, I'm liking this a little bit more now. So maybe that will be the case. There's a long-held belief in Hollywood that that massive IP and big budget spectacle is the only way to get asses in seats. But then a movie like Weapons came along and strongly suggests that audiences are hungry for quality original cinema. 100% agree. I, for one, I don't mind a remake or reboot here and there, but when it feels like that's all we're getting is studios literally going back to the 70s, 80s, 90s and saying we are literally taking everything that was done then, remaking, rebooting, or just continuing in some way, shape, or fashion. That I think that's where you lose a lot of people. It's also further proof that while other genre, including comedy, may be struggling in theaters, horror is truly the most death-proof and reliable genre of all. If you haven't yet seen Weapons in theaters, so okay. Synopsis about so yeah, this is just now just going to talk about the synopsis of the film, what Zach's next work is, which is known as Resident Evil, and then a movie poster. So that's where it ends. So so this article talked about a potential prequel, and that's where we're headed next. Is Weapons, Warner Bros. Reportedly considering an Aunt Gladys prequel movie. So this article here and the next one talk about that. So we'll cover this one, and then we'll cherry pick the next one just to see if there's anything in addition we want to add to it. So after the smash hit box office success of Weapons, you may be wondering if Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema are considering a sequel. After all, one successful movie often leads to another. That's very true. It's like studios can't help themselves. Even though a film doesn't need a sequel doesn't make sense, they're going to find a way to either do a sequel or a prequel to cash in on the popularity. But according to a report from the Hollywood Reporter this week, it's not a sequel that's currently being talked about around Hollywood. Rather, it's a prequel movie. The Hollywood Reporter is hearing that WB and New Line Cinema have been talking to Cregger about a potential prequel to Weapons centered on Aunt Gladys' character played by Amy Madigan in the film. We won't spoil any major Weapons plot details here in this article, but anyone who has seen the film knows that Gladys is a pivotal and mysterious character. While this may seem like an idea that's completely out of left field and widely unnecessary, it's interesting to know that Cregger actually did cut some material from the Weapons script that would have delved into the backstory of Aunt Gladys. It sounds like Weapons prequel would expand upon the material that would have served as the film's Aunt Gladys' chapter. Now, my understanding is, and maybe the next article will talk about that, where Zach mentions that, because my understanding is that he purposefully cut her like backstory out of Weapons to allow for that mystery of the character. He wanted that mystery to apply to her, not for the thought of we're gonna cut this out in order to set up a potential prequel based on her if this film is a success. Now, I think this is where Hollywood and studios get themselves in trouble. Just because this film is a success doesn't mean you need to go off and do a prequel on a mysterious character where maybe the vast majority of people aren't going to care enough to know the backstory. Maybe they like the fact of her being mysterious, and you don't necessarily want to know all that backstory information, and that's why Zach cut it out. So again, that's my understanding, but hopefully this article and the next one will cover off on that. Now this just goes on to talk about what we've already covered in other videos. Zach's doing a Resident Evil film next, so we know that it's going to be on his slate. So obviously a prequel by him, and that's where that article ends. So that's where, for him, a prequel isn't going to be like, oh, okay, we just finished Weapons, it's a success, let's start ramping up for a prequel. Nope, I gotta go do Resident Evil, and as you can see, that's not coming out until September 2026. So if he's going to be working on that, if they expect him to do a prequel, it's going to be a minute before he does. At least 2028, I'd imagine. Because by the time he gets this one done for 2026, you would think he's going to want a break somewhere in there before ramping up to start maybe doing a prequel, pre-production, all that type of stuff in 2027 to do a 2028 release. So, all right, so like I said, there is a second article on this topic. So let's check out that one and see if there's anything new. Like I said, that what I heard is as far as I mentioned, is what I've heard Zach say. So a Weapons prequel about Aunt Gladys would be a huge mistake. That's the headline for this one. All right, so we're going to cherry pick this because I don't want to cover off on things we've already talked about. So we already know about the success. A prequel is already being considered. We know all that as well. We know the character. So let's see if there's any quotes in here. And this one did say up here, warning, major spoilers for Weapons. And I already forewarned you all for this section of the video, for this update today. There's going to be spoilers for Weapons. So if you haven't seen it, again, you're being warned. All right, so let's keep going. Let's see here. Okay, so while an early draft of Weapons include a dedicated chapter perspective for Gladys, as there were for 6 other characters during the movie, it was dropped very early on in the process. The origin story that Cregger originally intended for Gladys may now be fully fleshed out into a prequel, but it could be a disastrous decision for Weapons franchise prospects. Okay, so we do have a quote here. Okay, good. I was hoping we would have something. Leading up to the release of Weapons, Zach spoke with Gizmodo about what his Gladys chapter would have looked like. Quote, in an earlier draft of the script, I had given her her own chapter. It was a little bit of an origin before she came to town, but I realized that it was just giving too much away. It was more compelling to not know some of these things, so I ended up cutting it very early on in the writing process. All right, is there any more to this? Not really. Yeah, the article. So good. At least we got a quote from there. So let's see. Let's see. I want to make sure it doesn't say anything else. So Cregger's own admission, he thought that keeping Gladys' past a mystery was more compelling, and that certainly played out in the final cut of the movie. Gladys was almost entirely omitted from the movie's marketing. So when she finally did appear in the movie, haunting character dreams in the woods before her formal introduction as Alex's aunt, she was beyond intriguing. Some of the most intimidating villains, particularly in horror movies, are never given a backstory, and in most cases, that enhances their scariness and creepiness. Why does Michael Myers, driven to relentlessly and brutally murder people, including his own family members? What makes Art the Clown torture and dismember people seemingly at random? We aren't told why, and that's what makes them scary. So I'm glad we kept going a little bit with this article. So I agree with Zach's approach. As I mentioned, keep the mystery there, and I do agree to an extent here. It does. If you don't know too much of the backstory of the villain, the mystery adds a bit to I think their evilness about them. Now with Michael Myers, I don't know that's the best example because we don't know why in the 78 Halloween, the original Halloween, why Michael Myers kills his sister. We just see him killing his sister, and then we see his parents show up. Then we do a time jump. He's an adult now. He escapes, and now he's trying to kill. Laurie. Now we've talked about this. I am going to do this. I promise. I am going to do a full Halloween series because, as we all know, if you didn't know, that Halloween was supposed to end. That was supposed to be the only movie. It was never supposed to be a part 2. And the fact that we never understood why Michael was attacking specifically Laurie, that was part of the mystery. When they did a part 2, that's when they decided, we'll make it the sister, and they did. And that's where John Carpenter and Deborah Hill said, we are done. We're not doing any more Halloween. Halloween was supposed to be an anthology if it were to continue, and that's what they did with part 3, where they would release a movie called Halloween every Halloween, but the story would be completely different. It wouldn't be based on one character, which is why then with Halloween 2, they did to Michael Myers what they did, seemingly killing him off. Halloween 3, and many people do like it, but overall, it didn't do well. It wasn't well received. Many people wanted Michael Myers back. They associated Halloween with Michael Myers, just like we associate Friday the 13th with Jason, and Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy Krueger. And so that's where they had the battle back and forth of ownership of rights, and eventually it all got Deborah and John stepped away from the rights holding and everything, which allowed Halloween to continue on, which is then when we got I think his name is Mustafa Aked stepping in and really taking over complete control, and that's where we got Halloween 4, and subsequently the rest is written, right? So all right, so so let's move on to our next topic. Try to wrap this one up here quickly so we can get to the interview. Like I said, it's about 6 minutes, so I really want to get to that. All right, so Sweet Revenge. Watched the 13-minute. I thought it was 15 minutes. I thought I heard it was going to be 15 minutes, but obviously it's not. Watch the 13-minute return of Jason Voorhees in new official short film. I have not watched this short film. We're not going to watch it here. I believe, I'm sure the link for the short film will be in this article. I'll put all the links in the description of this video so you know where to find the video. The short film, I'll be watching the short film this weekend and doing a quick review on it, because I am interested to see this, because when I first heard about it and the premise of it, I wasn't bought in. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be trash. When I saw the trailer, I was like, maybe this could be something. Maybe this could be a little decent. So I am gonna spend 13 minutes and watch it. Jason Voorhees is back on the screen in an official capacity for the first time in 16 years, with the Jason Universe team unleashing the 13-minute short film Sweet Revenge. Tonight, which was like a couple days, like a few days ago. What is Street Revenge, you ask? Well, it's been described as a we know all this stuff. Yeah, I mean, right here. I mean, it was a partnership with Angry Orchard Hard Cider with special Jason Universe branding. So yeah, we know all this. I was hoping they would give a bit more about the film itself. But with many films, but while many fans, myself included, feared that Sweet Revenge would merely be a commercial for Angry Orchard, it was presented as being sponsored by the company, which is, the reality is that it plays out like a fan film with surprisingly minimal product placement. But it's not a fan film, of course, as this short was made by the actual rights holders. Okay, that's good information to know. I don't think we knew that beforehand. Therein lies the key difference between Sweet Revenge and any other Jason Voorhees Friday the 13th film projects you've seen pop up in the last 16 years. The franchise's long-standing legal troubles have finally been cleared, and this marks the iconic slasher's first official appearance on screen since 2009 remake of the original horror classic Friday the 13th. And I've said this before, and we just talked about like remakes and reboots. I did enjoy, to a degree, the 2009 remake. I think one of the only true end-to-end horror film remakes I have enjoyed was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I think was 2002 or 3, I think, somewhere around there. That is end to end. I absolutely loved that remake. That is a film I could watch over and over again, ahead of the original by far. The Friday the 13th one, overall, I thought it was enjoyable. I think the original one will always be hard to surpass. Now, A Nightmare on Elm Street, I thought the remake was not good. Not good at all. All right, so we go on. Oh, so we already know all this information here, who the actors are, so that none of this is new. Also, keep in mind that while there is no doubt a strange way to introduce Jason after all these years, the horror icon will also be slashing back into our lives very soon with the A24 and Peacock series Crystal Lake. So I mean, so that's the other thing. We reported on this, I think, last week, that Crystal Lake is having the cast of the child version, but we're getting an adult version of Jason there too. Not sure how that's going to play out, especially since this is a prequel. So I am interested to see why that's happening and how they're going to tell that, unless we're doing a time jump at the end of this and it truly is just going to be a limited series run and not. So yeah, this as you can see, videos age restricted, but this is the link for the short film if you want to go check it out. Like I said, I'll put it in there. Angry Orchard doing some advertising for some of their products, and then we've all seen this banner, so nothing new there. All right, so we're going to jump into our last topic, which again is a small clip from an interview that Danielle Harris was giving. I specifically wanted to pull this out because she's talking about Halloween 4 and 5. Like I said, I'm a fan of Danielle Harris. I'm a fan of the Halloween franchise, so thought this would be a nice little clip to throw in there. Like I said, it's not that long. It's only 6 minutes. We're going to watch this part of the interview. We'll throw in some of our thoughts on it as well. All right, so let's pull it up and take a look at it.
Talks from the crypt.
In being years old and getting added to a franchise, and not just a franchise, but literally, I mean, the title was The Return of Michael Myers because he wasn't there in 3. Everyone was pissed.
Right.
4 comes out. He's back. I mean, that's a big fucking deal. At 8 years old, did you understand how?
No.
Or you weren't 8. Were you 9?
Yeah, I was 10. I turned 11 on 4. So I was 10, yeah.
And you'd never seen a Halloween film before then?
No. I was just like, oh my God, I had no idea. And my mom, I don't think it really even knew. We didn't really know what we were getting into or like what it was. I don't think, because we hadn't really watched that. She wasn't really into that stuff. So we had no idea. I was just like, oh my God, I get to go to Utah for 2 months and don't have to go to school. And I get to stay up late and get a hotel room where I can order French fries at, 8 in the morning if I want and sign a piece of paper and don't have to pay for it. Right. Like it was like
and party till 6 in the morning with everybody. I heard about those
that was on 5.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. 4, I was still very much like a kid. And then 5 came on. It was a whole different vibe on set.
Yeah. You guys took over the hotel.
Oh yeah. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But I had people like Greg Nicotero.
And what's crazy is if you've ever, I think the vast majority of us have all seen Halloween 4 and 5. She doesn't look like that much older from Halloween 4 to 5. I mean, she does look a little older, But when you do a quick comparison, it almost looks like the films were filmed very close together. I wouldn't say, I'm sure they weren't filmed back to back, but again, they look like they were filmed very close together as far as keeping her to look somewhat similar in age while still knowing that there was a time jump in the storyline from 4 to 5. So, and I will say, she mentions, her not seeing the previous Halloween films and her mom not. I mean, I don't know too many 10-year-olds that had seen Halloween 1 or 2 at that point. I mean, I know at that age I hadn't, so.
Who were like father figure, like Greg taught me how to drive. These are people that I developed a relationship with on set who continued to sort of look out for me after. I used to stay summers with Mustafa Akkad at his house because his daughter Lana was one of my really good friends growing up. So I would stay there throughout the summers and we would just like be kids. And his driver we'd go to like Magic Mountain and Knott's Berry Farm and like swimming, and we'd hang out and movies and make stupid videos. And I'd try to get Lana to smoke cigarettes and introduced her to porn that I found somewhere from a VHS tape from some house that I was just, always starting bad things.
That's amazing though. Do you still have a relationship with the Akkads, Malik?
Malik actually just sent me a t-shirt for my birthday, which was so fun and weird at the same time. I was like, I've never gotten anything from Trancas my whole life.
So side note, if you don't know who the Akkads are, like I was mentioning earlier, they're Mustafa's pretty much the one that came in, wanted to keep Michael Myers as the primary character in the Halloween franchise, was the primary producer and backer of Halloween. I'd be surprised if you don't know, himself and his daughter, I believe it was Lana, the one that Danielle was just mentioning, were both killed in a terrorist bombing. The year escapes me, but I remember hearing that news, and I can try and look it up as the interview goes on. But I remember hearing that news, and it was crazy. I think it was a hotel bombing that he had passed away, and I can't remember again what year it was. Okay, so I just pulled up. It was in November 2005. It had happened. Again, I believe it was him and his daughter, but he was the producer of the Halloween films. So,
and then randomly, I get a T-shirt of myself from Halloween 4 as my like happy birthday from Trancas. So it was a little bit like, this is crazy. Like, this is a random thing, you know. I didn't know he called and asked for my mailing address, and I was like, am I getting served? Am I getting sued for something? Like, what does he want my home address for? I was all scared,
Yeah.
I didn't know. So Malik's great. He's obviously, he was a PA on Halloween, so I know him from back then.
Yeah.
I mean, I would live in his house growing up. He wasn't really there because he was a teenager, so he was already like off doing his thing. But I loved Mustafa was really great to me growing up.
Well, their involvement in the series, there's always this debate whether it was for better or for worse. And, I was curious what you thought about that.
I mean, so Dwight Little wrote a book that I'm almost.
It was for the better. I absolutely. So quick check on facts. It was not the daughter that Danielle was mentioning. It was actually his oldest daughter who had passed away with him when that bombing had transpired. Now, for the better. Had he not have stepped in and really wanted to push keeping Michael Myers going as being the face of the Halloween franchise, I don't think the franchise would be existing today, to be honest. If they would have stuck with the anthology aspect like they did with Halloween 3, I think they may have gotten 1, maybe 2 more films out of it in the 80s, and that would have been the end of it. Until somewhere along the line, someone thought to themselves, geez, look how much money Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and all these films are making with all these sequels. Then someone eventually would have come. That's why you see such a time gap between Halloween 2 when we see Michael Myers and then Halloween 4 when you see him return, because they couldn't get the right, especially with 3 happening in between, and they couldn't get the ownership of rights resolved. They couldn't get everyone on board to bring Michael back. So in my opinion, it was all for the better. Even though I have always said I don't feel every sequel has been that great or necessarily needed. So just to point that out.
almost done reading it. I'd stopped it because it was all about directing. Then I was done directing, and I was like, I can't read any more about directing because I'm done with it right now. But it was like inspiration and sort of motivation for me, and trying to learn things from him because I do adore him. And he was talking about the process of working with Mustafa and kind of Mustafa taking a chance on him. It's a really good read, and he really like championed anything that Dwight wanted. He was like, I'll make that happen.
Right.
You know, the network wants this, but you want Ellie Cornell. Like, I'm going to, he was like, he couldn't find the right Rachel casting in Los Angeles. He was like, I'm not, or was it New York? It was one or the other. He couldn't find it. He was meeting all these like actresses. He's like, I'm not getting the essence of what I want.
Small town girl.
Yeah, something just different. And Mustafa said, we will fly you and cast in anywhere. Like, you name it and we'll make it happen. And there are not a lot of producers that accommodate the director as much when they have requests like, fly me here and cast girls from this place, unless you're like a big director.
Right.
So I think Mustafa really was like, you have the vision and I want to make sure that I get it right for you. And that's awesome.
I think their involvement was for the better, even though they kind of put their hands in too many places. Because if it were up to John Carpenter, the whole Halloween series would have just been anthology.
Right.
He just wanted it set on Halloween, different events unfurling. So without the Akkads, I mean, even Yablans, I call them Yablans though, these guys wanted Michael back. They wanted to capitalize off the success of one.
Right.
So, I mean, without them, would we have even gotten the Michael Myers? Would we have gotten Michael Myers again?
Right. I don't know. Probably not. I mean, I think that they were very smart businessmen and knew that there was, people always say like, oh, is Halloween over? It's like, no, Halloween's not over. They're always going to make these movies. As long as you pay to go see them, they're always going to make these movies.
Those new ones were
I agree.
fucking abysmal.
People will pay to see them. They'll keep making them.
I've made a comment
But I think in Halloween, I think in this case for Halloween,
on the
it wasn't
show
going to
all
matter.
the time. I once said that Rob Zombie's Halloween is better than John Carpenter's, which is an overstatement. I'm just defending Rob.
Drastic
I don't think it's better
overstatement.
because John Carpenter's is a 5 out of 5. There's not a single fucking thing I would change.
Right.
Rob's, I'd change a thing here or
Sure.
there, but not much. You know, maybe just a couple of creative decisions. Take the white stallion out.
Yeah.
Actually, I like that touch, but
That was weird.
yeah,
And that was added.
on set, I heard.
It was added.
Like he saw a white horse and he was like, all right, let's write this in.
Yep. So that was just a quick snippet of the overall interview. I'll put all these links in the description of this video, where you'll be able to find not only the Talks from the Crypt channel. I mean, they do some great interviews over there. I will say, I love what they do over there. So go check them out. Give them a subscribe. Go check out some of their videos. And again, they have the full. I think it's almost 2-hour interview with Danielle Harris. So yeah, go check out that video as well. But overall, go check out their channel. Give them a subscribe. So, all right, everyone, that's going to do it for this horror news update. It's a little bit longer than I would normally go, but yeah, we had some topics, kind of delved in a little bit deeper. And every so often when I come across these interviews, these clips, I find them interesting and want to bring them up because I find it interesting when actors and actresses kind of have a look back on some of the projects that they've done, especially like in this case, Danielle Harris being a child actor, having starred in both Halloween 4 and 5, which I still think are important films in the horror genre. I do believe, though, they have the 2 worst Michael Myers mask of all time, especially part 4 is the absolute worst mask, and overall how Michael looks is just atrocious. So anyways, drop a comment in the comments section. Let us know what you thought about what's going on with Weapons, a prequel potentially. Let me know if you've seen Sweet Revenge, the short film that's kind of kicking off again, or the resurgence of Jason Voorhees. And let me know your thoughts on the Halloween franchise, especially like parts 4 and 5. You like them, don't like them? Do you think they were necessary? Do you think Halloween would have continued on if the Akkads never would have stepped in and pursued it further? So drop a comment in the comments section, and if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one. Later.